Awesome. Hello, hello, hello. All right, let's just give it a second here. Working on going live. All right, we've got everything up and going. So let's end up. All right. So if you are new, we just also streaming this to Instagram. So welcome, welcome, welcome to everyone. Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram. So anyone that is joining us on YouTube, make sure you end up a click subscribe. We've got all sorts of content, videos, all sorts of things. Tonight, you will notice that so far I am by myself. We have a very talented actress who has transformed her life by shedding this weight and discovered a newfound sense of confidence and vitality, preparing to be amazed by the incredible.
Ta-da! Right?
And my lovely co-host. Welcome, my dear. Absolutely. So anyone that has normally been joining us may not realize that sorry, I was getting feedback there for a minute. May not realize that my co-host was a actress back in the day. What do we figure about 7 years ago? Uh,
Yeah, yeah. I think, well, I want to say it was 2015, 2016 that we moved from the Houston area to the New Orleans area. And little known fact about New Orleans was it's called Hollywood South. A lot of movies and a lot of TV shows are filmed there. Um, and so it's kind of a little forgotten, a little Hollywood, really. And I knew that. And so when we moved there, I decided that it was always a lifelong dream. I was the lead in the school plays in high school. I always wanted to be an actress. I wanted to go out to Hollywood or New York and try and make it. That was my dream. So when we moved to the New Orleans area, and I knew there was a lot of movies and stuff being shot, first thing I sought out was background, right? How to get in and be a background. And so talk to people, things like that. And they were like, this is how you get into it. This is how you break into it. So I started taking acting classes. I got an acting coach. And I did that for some time. And then I ended up getting an agent, which was huge. So it was a lot of steps to do that. Now, what you're seeing was a movie I was in. They call that a feature background because obviously I'm very prominent in this scene. It's big when you get something like that. Obviously, you can see it's Tom Cruise in the background. And this movie was Jack Reacher, Never Go Back. And even though it was supposed to be set in Washington, D.C. for most of the movie, it was really filmed in New Orleans. My sole job there was to walk fast while Tom Cruise and his co star were running, and there's a bad guy chasing them behind that you don't see, that he's really not there. But anyway, the magic of Hollywood, right?
Right.
So I I'm going to back up and talk about that morning of coming out here to be on set. So they had us parking, I don't know, blocks and blocks away from this area in a parking garage. I want to say the parking garage was something like 7 or 8 stories tall. And there was a lot of background people, a lot of actors there. And so when I got there, I had to park on the roof. And the elevator was out of service. Now, I'm about between anywhere from 275 pounds to 300 pounds there. And I had to walk carrying what you see me carrying. That's like my lunch, my bag, everything that you're going to need throughout the day because you're sitting outside, you're waiting for the next scene. So you have to kind of bring your stuff. So I walked down those 7 or 8 flights of stairs.
Mm.
I remember breathing so heavy, like that I was as I'm trying to go down the stairs and stopping. And if anybody's ever been in New Orleans, the odor isn't all that great. So the back stairs smelled really bad.
Mm.
And I'm heaving to try and get my breath. Then I had to walk blocks to where we go to what they call holding. And I noticed as I was walking, I started to hurt really bad in my legs. And the lactic acid had built up immediately. And it was painful.
Mhm.
So they get us out on set, out on the street here. And I sat, like I wasn't even in some of the scenes on purpose because I couldn't stand and I couldn't walk. And I knew I was big, but I don't know. There was a disconnect there, right? Yeah. So that's one of my headshots. That headshot until now, has never seen the light of day because you can see how big I am in that photo.
Well, and that's where we were discussing this afternoon, and what type of feelings did it re how do I say, bring back up after we were looking at these photos? Because this is like
Um,
you said, a professional headshot. This is something that you were using with your agent or anticipating using with your agent.
correct, correct. I knew at the time when I had that taken that that photo would never get turned in, right? To any, the agent wouldn't get it. I wouldn't let this out. I found it today in my headshots, and um, I didn't know I was that big. And I'd look at that, and it's like, wow, I really had disassociated what I looked like. It was always about just my face or hiding behind people, hiding behind things so you couldn't see my body, um, or the one that took the pictures. I
Mm.
mean, I even had professional makeup done. I've got false eyelashes on, right? I had my hair done. Um, I was sitting on stairs and the photographer was standing up over me and she took that picture. I don't know who that person is. Um,
Well, I was just saying, and then there's this person.
there's another one that has never seen the light of day either. So in 2007, 16, I was one of the main stars in a movie that never got released. The name of the movie was Hidden Trigger. It was about a sex trafficked family, two sisters and a brother that had escaped and they were adults. And so this was kind of like a messed up, like how messed up they were as adults from what had happened to them as a kid. And somebody snapped that picture that was in between takes and they posted it on a private Facebook group for our movie.
Mhm.
Um, I was horrified when I seen that. I knew I was big. I didn't know I was that big.
Well, and we had discussed the fact of shopping when you had shopping for clothes.
Yeah. So I had to go. I got. I had to go to the store to get a flashy top, right? Because this character I played was over the top, flashy. She drank, she smoked, she did drugs. She's remember she's messed up from being in sex traffic, and she was the older sister, so she took the brunt of whatever horrific things happened uh, from her younger siblings. So I had to go get this flashy top, and they didn't have my size in the
Mm.
store. It was Catherine's, the store, and I had to buy the only size they had for this top, and it was a 4X. That is the one and only top that I ever had that was 4X. And I remember telling myself, like, oh, this top's too big for me. And I don't really fit in this. And it looks kind of, really big on me. Like, that's how I had justified buying a 4X top. Like, you know,
And if anyone remembers in the description, I had put at one point while acting, you were over the 300-pound mark. Uh,
mhm.
and so when you were getting these scenes such as this, how did that weight end up and interfere with your scenes? How did it interfere with work?
So that's the 4X top I'm wearing. And again, I thought it was too big on me. But the scene that you're seeing here, or at least the ones on the floor, and the guy that's holding the mic, he played my brother. He was the executive producer, and he dies. There was two death scenes actually. One of them, quote, my husband, and then because my brother killed him, and then he turned and killed himself. So these two deaths happen. I'm on the floor, and I literally, because of this, my size, my stomach, everything, I cannot bend over to cradle them, to get my head down on their chest, to cry. Like I cried, but I couldn't act the scene like it really needed to be done. And that one of the back of me where I'm trying to lean over, you can see my hand is kind of, it was uncomfortable. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, I had to play the scene over and over.
Mhm.
Getting down on the floor was a miracle. Getting back up was ridiculous. And then trying to play this death scene was even worse. And yeah, it was bad.
And there's another front view face shot as well. So when you we'll go back here. When you were playing these scenes, how did your body hold up overall? Because acting in or, being active on set, right, is a lot it takes a lot of endurance, some long days. How was your energy level throughout all of this?
Um, oh, I sat constantly. Like, I would have to get back up and go out to the kitchen for that one scene there in the upper left-hand corner. Um, and then I would go back and sit. Like, it was at this stage in my life, even in stores, if we would go into, like, say, Home Depot or something, I would sit on cement bags because I physically could not walk the store, and it hurt my feet and legs and my back. And that's just how I lived. Um, was trying to it was always scoping out where, like, the nearest place to set was gonna be. So, I was very tired because
Yeah.
you spend, it's crazy hours when you're acting, and we're talking, 16, 17, 18-hour days. Um, and yeah, it was very taxing, very tired. That one that I was in with Tom Cruise, I was on set a total of 12 days, 12, well, 11 nights, and then that one day there filming. And we filmed all night and then would come home and sleep for a few hours and then have to be back on set by, like, well, we had to be in holding by 3 o'clock. And then at 6 o'clock, they brought us out to the night. There's a night parade scene, and they literally, like, shut the streets off so we could film all night. But they had to be done by, like, 5 o'clock in the 6 o'clock in the morning so they could open the streets back up so traffic could go.
Mm.
So, um, trying to find, I mean, I sat on sidewalks in the French Quarter, and if anybody's been there, they know that's pretty nasty. But when you're that big, you've got to find places to set. I sat on steps, planners, anywhere that because I could not physically be up and doing that. But that scene right there took 4 hours to film a 10-second. This 10 seconds took 4 hours.
Wow.
I couldn't sit. I couldn't. When they yell cut, you have to go back and stand at the point where they want you to do whatever, right, whatever you're doing. So it was, and then they moved the cameras to get another angle. And then they would action and they would do it again. And I would have to do that walk. Now I'm walking fast because they came up to me, one of the directors, and said, actually, it was a director's assistant, and he said, "Now you need to make sure you walk fast because you can't slow down Mr. Cruz." Because he runs up and stops about the edge of that sidewalk there to the grass, and then they turn around and look at the bad guy that's chasing them. So that was the scene. So it was over and over. I can't sit down and I have to walk fast. And the elastic acid is in my legs. I remember the struggle of walking and hurting so bad. And that's what I see when I look at that scene. Now, the other thing that I see in that scene is how I'm holding my bag, right? And I
Mhm.
had to keep holding my bags like that because I knew where the camera was and I had to hide the side of my body. So I couldn't, how you get tired of holding a purse or a bag and you got to switch shoulders? Like, yeah, So I had to keep it always on that side to hide it from the camera because I knew where the camera was at all times. So had they moved it to another angle, buddy, I would have been switching the bags over to the other side, but they didn't, right? They did
Mhm,
from up above, they did like they had boom operator, and it
mhm.
was crazy I mean, I enjoyed acting like a ton and I learned a lot, but that's a person right there. She's in a lot of pain. She hurts. And moving her body was not fun.
And so when you end up and we're gonna few more slides here. When you look into this person's eyes, what do you see looking back at you?
Me, I think I look like that now. That is no joke. And obviously, I can see kind of over here on the side myself. And I do see maybe, oh, my face looks a little longer, but my mind thinks I'm her. I look like her. When I look in the mirror, I see her. I don't see whatever everybody else sees. I don't.
And that's that mindset aspect is one of the other things that we end up when we work on in the BNC community, right? We work on that mental health. We work on that mindset because body dysmorphia and the disconnection, disassociation that we end up when we have, like you said, you knew that you were big, right? But you didn't really understand or recognize it until you really ended up and got that professional shot back. When you
Yeah.
got that shot back is when you ended up and realized, I mean, the mind realized it, right? You
Yeah.
knew, but you just didn't have that association. And once you ended up and was able to take control of it, I mean, let's, shift gears because this is you, right? This is just an older version of you, but it is the same heart, it is the same person, it is the same soul that was suppressed in her for so long that has now ended up and come out in this person.
Yep.
And this is why we do the pictures every month. This is why we end up when we talk about the mindset, putting those pictures side by side. Because, like you said, you see this person on the left.
Oh,
Well, it's my left. I think it's the same on
the one in
YouTube.
the
But
red or the other
yeah,
one?
you end up and see the person in the red
Yeah.
when in
And that
reality it is the person on the other side.
right? When I go to look in a mirror, like if I go into my bathroom tonight and go to look in the mirror, that's the person that's looking back to this day.
And so, how has this person got from, and we have one more slide here too. How has this person on the left made it and gotten to this person on the right? I mean, look at that difference in that person.
Yeah,
It's
I guess
amazing.
looking at it like that, it's like, oh, I guess I have shrunk, right?
But it's hard to
Um,
see. It's hard to see in our own mind, right? Again, that body dysmorphia is real. There are so many people in this world or in society that go from being 200 pounds, being 300 pounds, and end up, and it's a journey, right? You didn't get from this person on the left to the person on the right overnight.
oh
This
no.
is a journey, this is a process. It is not some quick fix that we end up we teach in our community, but it is a journey that has multiple angles, right? Multiple curves to it. What got you from this person on the left to the person on the right?
Well, after I filmed that movie that you're looking at with the green top there, when I seen those pictures that got posted on Facebook in our private group, um, I knew that it was bad and I had to do something. Now, I'm in the picture, I'm a type 2 diabetic. They were treating me for rheumatoid arthritis, high blood pressure. I was on multiple medications for type 2 diabetes. Um, and I was kind of done with everything, and I didn't want to look like her anymore. And if I was going to continue acting, I couldn't look like that because I'll never get any roles looking like that. Um, so I think a couple months, and I really had to search myself, but I and talked to my husband, and we decided that I would go ahead and look into gastric bypass surgery. So that was January of 2017 that I was going to do gastric bypass surgery. I went to the surgeon's office and they put me on a scale. And that's when I seen at that point I was 275 pounds. And we know I was bigger than that at that moment. So, or I mean, in these pictures and stuff,
Mhm.
and this was months earlier. So so I set a course to, yeah, I set the course to go through gastric bypass surgery. And by gosh, I was going to do it and it was going to work and I was going to lose weight and I was going to, not be a diabetic anymore. And, but I wasn't going to look like that. That is what I knew. And I was so determined. And I went through about 8 months, 9 months of prepping for the surgery. I had to get psychological evaluations. I went to group meetings for gastric bypass people, a nutritionist. The nutritionist put me on a calorie restricted diet of 1,000 calories.
Wow.
And in 5 months, I was down 40 pounds. And because what they would do is they're teaching you to eat like you would after
Mhm.
the surgery, because it's a process. You have to learn how to stack certain foods, protein, and then blah, blah, blah. And you can't drink out of a straw. Like it was a whole thing. Um, I did everything I was supposed to do, and went to schedule the surgery, and they would not perform the surgery till they had something like $6,000 or $7,000. And my husband looked at me and he said, "We can't afford that. We don't have that kind of money to stroke a check out and hand it to a surgical center." And plus, he really didn't want me to get half of my stomach cut out.
Yeah.
Um,
I
right?
mean, makes sense, right? If we end up we have our stomach, if we what is that gonna do to and I know there's many people that have gone this route and it's not that we're against it. There are, lifestyle practices that could end up and be put in place. And many people I know have ended up and been through it, but it's not that we're against it. It's just it is a financial obligation and it is a process and that leads many times to complications down the road. But my biggest thing when you ended up said that they put you on 1,000 calories, what did that do to your energy and your metabolism and the long term aspect, right? um because that constant restriction, right? The body likes the variation, the body likes um this aspect. And real quick, I'll just also say for anyone either on YouTube or one of the other streaming, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Um, but also make sure to follow if you're watching over on Instagram. But yeah, what I mean, what do you do, right? If you end up and you have half of your stomach that 10, 15, 20 years down the road that
Yeah.
you may need, right?
Yeah, that's what my husband was afraid of, that we would find out years from now, like, oh, we should have never been cutting people's stomachs, have their stomach out, right? Like it was like, what do? You can't put it back. But I remember during the 1,000 calories, I was starving. And I was so hungry, and I would sneak into the pantry after my husband would go to bed, and I would eat nuts because I'm starving. So I'm standing in the pantry in the dark, and I'm shoveling handfuls of nuts because, oh my gosh, I was starving. And I told my nutritionist what I was doing, and she's like, well, it doesn't seem to matter. You're still losing, so it's okay. Um, but yeah, and at the same time, I was still on depression medicine. So I was trying to cut that out at the same time. And if anyone knows what it's like to come off of any type of that kind of medication, it gives you brain zaps and things like that. So I was going through that too. And
I'm
it
here.
was yeah, it wasn't
Ooh,
oop.
there we go.
Yeah. So I had to give up the dream, right? We don't have that kind of cash to lay out. Now I'm done again. 40 pounds less, but I'm done. Now what am I going to do? And how am I going to lose weight? And you know what? I gave up again. Because nothing worked. I mean, I've been on Weight Watchers. I've been on Nutrisense. I've done, all of these, like, the meals that you buy, and then, they give you this much to eat type thing. Shakes. I did isogenics at one point. I've done it all. And at that point, I gave up and I was done trying again. And it took me 2019 when I had my health scare that I realized I got to do something because I'm going to die because diabetes is going to kill me along with other things. And I didn't know what. I knew I think my fasting glucose was like 8.2 or 3. Um, and that's when I started researching keto. Didn't understand it. I Googled it, right? Like we all do. Um, and I started walking, and I could only walk 4 houses down and back. That's how I started. Um, and at the time, my best friend was, she was about 400 to 450 pounds. She didn't even want to talk to me when I was walking. Um, and she ended up passing away in October of 2019. Um, that scared me. And then it became like, I'm going to die. This is now life and death. I thought it was life and death before, but when you have your best friend at 30 years die, you know that you're next. And so I continued Googling, right? Keto. And I don't know the difference between dirty keto. You can't have, the hidden names of sugars that are in these products that they claim in, Quest bars and the Quest chips. And you don't know. We were never taught. But I kept walking and I got myself up to about a mile and a half walking every day. And it didn't matter if it was 100 degrees out. At lunch, I went out and walked. And then I did find a keto program. that I won a year membership of this program, which was a blessing. I learned a lot, but about 2 months into that program, so now we're setting about 5 months trying keto, everything stopped again. I stopped losing weight. My blood sugars were getting worse again. Nothing was working. And I think that's when we met, wasn't it?
Mhm.
The one day where we were in a meeting and I broke down crying because nothing was working,
Yep.
right?
Yep. That was the evening meeting that I was doing at the time and hosting, which again was focused on the brain boost and the mindset side and the mental health shift. And we really ended up connected in those meetings over these struggles that people have, right? It's not just a one size fits all and be able to do it. It is an n equals one. And there's times where we'll be going along our journey and it stops working, but that doesn't mean it stops the end of the journey, right?
Right.
And so we needed to shift your journey, and we did end up and shift that. Um,
Took a long
be
time.
Yeah, it did. And there is also another path in there where you shifted and worked with another physician.
Yep. Yeah, he had me doing fasting. And now this whole time, you guys, I'm still taking my type 2 diabetes meds, and my high blood pressure meds. Like, I'm still taking this stuff. Well, this doctor that I worked with, he actually was able to get me off of the type 2 diabetes meds. But during the fasting, which you see everyone, they push that out, you know, oh, fast. Oh, you need to fast. Fasting,
Water fasting.
water fasting, right? I did a 100-hour water fast and I came out of it and I gained weight and my blood sugars were worse.
Yeah.
And it was like, Becky, what is it about my body that cannot do anything? And I'm at this point, I'm eating carnivore and like nothing was like, and I'll let you tell that part of it, how we flip that around.
Yeah, so when you were doing the fasting and everything with them, you were also tired. You were struggling with energy, mood. I mean, you had a lot of issues, right? Because here your body was so resistant in doing this fast, and he did. He started you out, we talk about fasting as a muscle. And he started you out with just doing 24, 36 hours, worked you up to 72, and
Yeah.
then worked you up to this, longer fast. But what he wasn't paying attention to along the way is how your body was responding in regards of it being a hormetic stressor.
Yeah.
And so every time you would do this, you were struggling. You were gaining weight instead of losing weight, but yet you weren't eating. And then you got to the 5-day fast, and everything basically backfired on you. And that's when we switched it up. That's when we
Yeah.
went with, okay, let's go back to, if you want to do fasting, I'm not against fasting. Obviously, it's a fat fast day today. So I get it. That's just what day of the week I am, right? But with you, we switched that up. You
Mhm.
were doing working out too. So you were
Mhm.
working out fasted. You were, doing the movement. You were doing all of these things that we talk about getting the higher protein in there. We took it back to a therapeutic level of doing adequate protein and getting you your energy through your fat. Your body needed that training, if you will, as far as lipolysis goes, so that your body knew, as well as giving your body what it needed to regulate your hormones. We had to get you shifted into the body being comfortable and knowing, hey, I don't have to hang on to this. This is not a time where I am in famine and, starving. This is a time where we need to reverse our hormones. All of our hormones are intertwined. So if we can control your insulin, which he wasn't able, I mean, he was able to do because he brought the A1C down to a point, but then it stopped again.
Yep.
And we had to bring your, A1C down and your fasting glucose down so that the body could then end up and regulate your cortisol as well as your leptin. You were
Yep.
so resistant on insulin resistant and leptin resistant that your body was hanging on to everything it had.
Yep.
Once we were able to end up and shift that is when we really ended up and seeing the difference in this person. We
So
were able.
that top I'm wearing, that maroon
Mhm.
reddish colored top, that's a 14. And the green top is about a 3X.
We were able, like I said, to get the body to use not only the fat you were consuming, right? That is one of the biggest things out there for many people is don't consume dietary fat when your body has fat to lose.
Right.
But for your body and for many women, it is working, right? We see it in the community. We see it in the BNC community. I see it in coaching sessions every day. People just like you that were struggling to lose weight, people that were struggling with their A1C, with their glucoses, to be able to lose. And when we shifted your macros into more of an adequate protein and that higher fat, and you are now able to do fasting. You are
Yeah.
able to end up and go back and do the fat fasting. I mean, yes, I wrote a master class in regards of the 4 tiers, but you've been able to work through those to the
Mhm.
point where you're intuitively doing fat fasting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how are you feeling when you do fasting now compared to before when you were doing your fasting?
Oh, I have energy, and it's energy that sustains throughout the day. I don't hit any slumps. I remember about, I think it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I was trying to do water fasting before. All I wanted to do was crawl into bed and take a nap. I took a nap today for the first time in probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months now. And that was just by choice because it's cold here in Houston and I wanted to take a nap. But um, it wasn't like I was really that tired. It was more I was relaxed. I was watching something on TV and I drifted off to sleep today. So the energy is there. Um, and the other thing that I had to look to was beyond the nutrition, beyond the food that went into my mouth, because I found out there was way more to it than that. If anybody follows Becky, she's out there getting the morning sun, cold exposure, walking barefoot in the snow with a tank top on, doing snow angels. But she has built herself up to that. Like the first time you said you did it, you were,
Yeah, I
I
was in
mean,
a sweater and I was drinking something warm. It is all about acclimating. And that's one of the things that we do teach in the community, right? Is the aspect of acclimating. It's not just, hey, jump both feet in and go whole hog on this. There is a process. It is a step process. And that's one of the things that we do teach in the community. I didn't tell you to, only eat so much fat, or we really both end up in like the power pucks right now, um to utilize those during fat fasting. But it wasn't like, oh, this is what I want you to eat, right? It
right.
was, okay, this is the beginner level, this is the intermediate, and moving along, to the point where now, like I said, you can do it intuitively. But
Yep.
it's still that process of fasting and movement and all the intuitive areas that we do talk about, circadian rhythm, grounding, sleep, because sleep is very important, getting that quality sleep too. And many people will say also, that they don't necessarily sleep very well. How is your sleep throughout this process and when you're fat fasting?
Oh, oh, night and day difference, right? I was hard to shut down and go to sleep. And then I would wake up at 2, 3 o'clock in the in the middle of the night. Then I'm wide awake. I never got solid sleep. And I mean, I had to learn to start wearing, blue blocker glasses, in the different colors of the lens that you can use. I even have my mom right now. She has trouble sleeping. And it's like, I told her, I'm like, Mom, you really need to wear these blockers at night. If when it gets dark, you put them on, it's going to help your melatonin increase and your cortisol decrease. And it's consistency. It is, I've been at this over a year. I sleep pretty good for the most part. If I don't sleep good, it's because there's something major going on in my life that's got my mind going, but that's everybody. But yeah, the sleep has been, I remember thinking, you hear, oh, you need to get a good night's sleep. And I would think, well, how the heck do you go to sleep? Like, I can't even shut down. Like, how is that going to work? It was so foreign to me. I never understood it till I started incorporating the beyonds, as I call it.
Well, and that's where, speaking in regards of the beyond, getting up, I mean, you post on your Instagram every day, that you're getting up, other than maybe in 28-degree Houston weather. I get it. I understand you friends to the south aren't used to that. Unlike me up here, that I think it's still only like 0 outside. Maybe it's even negative. Yeah, it's -4 currently. Feels like -22. So, um, the difference in where we live, right? But you are still out there getting sunrise. You are out there doing your solarized water. You are out there um, doing the grounding aspect. And you were out earlier today, even um, getting that light. So the
I was
beyond,
out there today in my sweatpants and the sweatshirt that I'm wearing, and I think I had some socks on, but I was out there. And I was out there for a while. You and I were on the phone talking. I didn't go get a coat and come out. Like, I was thinking, and I remember thinking as I'm talking to you that, yeah, it's 20, I think it was 28 degrees at the
28
time. And
is
I was like, this isn't bothering me as bad as it should.
well, and that's just it. A lot of people with, Raynaud's. I have a couple clients with Raynaud's. I've got people with thyroid issues um, that are able to. Raynaud's is one of the biggest things. And I know my friends over there on Instagram, she can end up, if she's still watching, chime into the chat that the cold exposure and the acclimating to the seasons helped her with her Raynaud's, because many people, it's just so painful, like you were talking about with walking during those scenes. But through that acclimation process, through the journey of being able to acclimate and transition, it has tremendously, not only changed your life in regards of getting from this, person in the green to the person in the red, but just your overall, to the point where now you are even influencing those around you and starting that journey as well.
Yeah, I became a certified nutritional coach back in, gosh, was it July, June?
Mhm.
And I coach clients now. Um, let's see, when was that? I think it was KetoCon this past year. I had decided at KetoCon that I had a story. A lot of people didn't know the true story. But I have a story, and I'm just like, probably a lot more people than I realize. And I really have a passion to help people. Um, Everything that I do takes such an enormous, I don't know the word. It it has taken me 2 years and 3 months 4 months to get to that picture that you saved in the maroon top. Um, it's been a struggle. It is everything I do is a struggle. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not a quick fix. It is, um, oh, I'm going to try it for a month or two and oops, it didn't work and let's quit. Because, like I said earlier, this was life or death. And this is still how I have to look at this. I can go back to the person in that green top. I could give up because I'm not where I'm at, want to be at. Or I can keep going and I'm going to keep going. Um, it took me decades to get to that green top. And it's going to take me many years to get to where I need to be. Uh, but consistency is key and working it. And, I don't fall off the wagon. I don't I plan even a cheat because, again, in my mind, it's life and death. And when you get to that point, I don't even know how to express it.
Well, and it's so you have your normal journey, and this is where the abstainer versus the moderator end up come into play, right? It is one of those aspects that I know you ended up and had a one time a year event that you end up and you do per year with your girlfriends, and you were able, to I don't necessarily want to say cheat because cheat ends up and maybe implies a bad word or a bad context, but you were able to veer off of what you would normally do. But the other thing that I know you're changing in your journey and are continuously progressing is the fact that you didn't completely go off the rails,
Mm,
right? You were able to recognize when to stop and you were able to stop. Not everyone is at that point. And
right.
this is the other aspect of the journey, right? Is
Yeah.
you were at that point of being able to. You are able to moderate when you choose to, right? It's part of the plan. If we fail to plan to fail. We have
Yep.
to have a plan. And
Yep.
if plan A don't work, make sure you end up and have a plan B, right?
Right. Right.
You went to this gathering prepared. You took food with you. You you plan. I mean, you make the egg muffins, egg bites, whatever you want to end up call them, carnivore waffles, um, all the time,
All the time.
right?
Mhm.
That's just one of your meals to get that meal in first thing in the morning within,
Yep.
that hour of being up.
Yep.
You are able to end up and eat that. You are able to do those egg muffins even on a fast day
Yes.
and still feel full. You're
Yep.
not trying to, white knuckle your way through a fast. You're not trying to white knuckle your way through a normal day,
Right. Right.
but yet just that difference. And now I know the story, but now you talk about the person back when you were acting and in your acting days and struggled to walk and be able to move around. How is that person changed now?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't recognize myself. Like we can go to stores and walk around and like, no, I don't look for places to sit anymore. I just don't. Like that's gone. Um, every once in a while, like it'll come back like, oh, I could sit there. And then I realize like, I don't need to sit. Like, where did that thought come from? Um, I picked up like a 50-pound bag of mulch a couple months ago and moved it across the garage. And I looked up and my husband's staring at me. And he's like, who are you? And I was like, what? And he goes, do you realize that was a 50-pound bag of mulch? Um, So it's the things like that that I realize that I'm not that same person, except that, gosh, I just, I still think I am, right? I still see that person. Um, I never wanted these pictures to see the light of day, and here I am showing them on YouTube, you guys, on Instagram and on Facebook. Like these were such a deep, hidden, horrific secret of what I went through and what I looked like. And yeah, my friends and family knew, right? But when I tell them what your daughter said when you,
Well, so she has seen pictures, right? She sees our picture that I post for YouTube. She sees our picture on social media, and she couldn't believe it. She just shook her head and she's like, "Oh wow, right? That's I mean, she was so shocked just at the aspect, and I know you didn't want it to see the light of day, right?
I did,
You
yeah,
but you knew, and you posted, and I'll go back to it here. So we're gonna end up and add this before and during, right? But you posted this to our YouTube, and you posted it originally as a short,
yeah,
just saying that time when you were acting at the top of your weight and remembering how hard it was to walk, remembering and reflecting. And I think that is part of the growth of a person, is being able to reflect back and realize that that is part of our journey and using that as our motivation. That short got 2.1 thousand views, and that's when we knew that we ended up and we had to share your story. We had to get this out there that there is help, there is hope, and
yeah,
we are here as a community or as one-on-one. You do coaching, I do coaching, we have several coaches in the community, and people don't have to do this journey alone. They
no,
don't have to walk through the trenches by themselves. We are reaching a hand out to bring you from this person on
yeah,
the, out of those trenches. I'm like, wait a minute, it's changing, you're changing.
yeah. I was
um
doing it, yeah.
but we are able to end up and help you. We're
That
reaching.
picture right there, here's a funny story. So that's on Warner Brothers movie I was in. And I got to meet Gerard Butler. But anyway, I talked to him for a little bit. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we were International Space Station people. Makeup and hair. They slicked my hair back, and I had to wear like this black top, these like camo pants, and combat boots. And they had to put me in men's clothes because
Right.
none of the women's clothes fit me. So I was wearing men's clothes, and notice that I'm taking a picture of myself, but it's only my face.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, yeah. I don't know who she is me, but she's not me anymore. But she doesn't define me anymore. I don't, if I can help people that struggle like I struggle, then my struggle was absolutely worth it.
Mhm. And you live a life of perseverance, of what word do I want to, I mean, you're thriving now, right? You are able to look back and resonate. That's the word I was looking for. You are able to end up and resonate with that person. We are all able to, because we went through it, right? We weren't someone that was rail, thin and supermodel, single digit body fat percentage, right? You
Yeah,
were in those trenches, and that's what we are looking at helping.
yeah, definitely. Oh,
Awesome.
phew.
I'm
reliving it for everyone, but hopefully, reach out to us, right?
Yep. And I know that was hard, and I truly appreciate it. When I threw it out, although, you did not hesitate. It was, "Hey, this is our topic for Monday," and we went with it, right? Because we
Yeah,
knew, and being able to help. So, yeah, whether you reach out and follow Sherry Step by Healing Step on Instagram, we're both streaming to Instagram. So, you can also end up Sherry hosts a meeting in the BNC, very active in the meetings in BNC. So definitely reach out to her, book that coaching session if you're not at the point where group is your thing. She's got a link in her bio on Instagram. So feel free to reach out, my dear. As always, love and appreciate you. I really do appreciate you telling your story, because I do think that it is going to help that person that is maybe still, hiding in the pictures and hiding in the background and not willing to take that step forward yet. But now they have that ability to know that, hey, I can take that step forward, and we're here.
absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me tell my story. The story that was never supposed to be told, right? I
Yep.
was never going to show these pictures and tell this part of my journey. But again, if I helped, then let me know. If
Yeah.
you're struggling, let me know. Give us a chance to, we'll help. We can do that. So thank you. I think we
Absolutely.
have a guest next week.
We do. We have Craig coming on. More will be posted. Well, backtrack. We have a guest coming on Saturday, 9 a.m. Saturday. We have Robin with Hack Your Health, also known as KetoCon, coming
Yeah.
on. So definitely end up and join us for that one. But then, yes, our normal Monday night, we have Craig coming on in regards of his journey through carnivore and keto, and how that all ends up going. So definitely join us. If you have questions, put them in the comment section for you over on Instagram, giving us those likes, subscribe, um, all of that fun stuff that people normally do. Otherwise, like I said, definitely check us out. Saturday morning, we will have Robin on, and then Craig next, and then we have several guests lined up.
We
We
do.
have Dr. Paul coming back on the end of the month with hydrogen water. So all sorts of fun things in the works. Awesome, guys. Have a wonderful night.